Hey everyone, Felix from Nintendo Live here, and a new Wave DLC booster course pack is here. It's Wave 4, and to talk about it, we have Alex.
It's me, the Mario Kart.
What? The Mario Kart?
I'm afraid so. I've kept it from you for so long, Felix, but it's time you knew.
The myth is real. Oh, I can't believe it. So, yeah, this booster course pass, the consistency is very weird, because we have some tracks that is, like, absolutely phenomenal, but then we have other tracks that I think, it's like they put a lot of time into some of the tracks and then kind of forgot others.
Yeah, well, we'll go through them one by one, but yeah, my overall feelings are this certainly isn't my favorite wave by a long way.
Firstly, we should talk about, we have a new character, and that was a big surprise for many of us, and it looks like there's 5 question marks at the character select screen, so does that mean we'll get 5 more characters?
Or 5 more opportunities to pick a random character.
I mean, maybe it's only 4 characters and then the last one is just a random, like, Smash.
Oh, that would be awful. They wouldn't. I mean, I was about to say they wouldn't do that. They might do that, but I'd be very surprised if they did. But no, 5 more characters, and only 2 waves to go, so I can only imagine we're going to get 2 characters one wave and 3 another? Something like that. I mean, I've already said on Twitter who I want. I want Cappy.
There's a lot of characters that I would like to see in, but I'm going to introduce a round of quickfire. Alex, character that you want in?
I've already said Cappy, so, Funky Kong.
Diddy Kong.
Bulborb from Pikmin.
Stress is getting to, Tom Nook. Alex.
Tom Nook. I was about to say Isabel. Tip Top from the Diddy Kong Racing series.
Funky Kong. Alex.
I've already said Funky Kong. Pikachu.
And I'll end off with Pauline. Woohoo!
Oh yeah, Pauline's a fair shout.
Yeah.
That's actually a sensible answer. Well, I suppose Funky Kong is as well.
Oh, that was so stressful. But I'm glad the segment made a return finally. So, yeah, why don't we just jump right into these courses with the Fruit Cup? So the first course in the Fruit Cup is Amsterdam Drift. What are your thoughts on this, Alex?
I'm going to be honest, not great. It's a problem I have with a lot of the city courses. So many of the turns are just sudden, sharp right angles. And they are just like occasionally like to really throw people off. Maybe you could get away with 1, maybe 2 at a push, but they're not fun. They're not conducive to racing. You show me like a fast racing course in real life that has a lot of sharp right angles, and I will show you an exception to the rule because, you look at anything Formula 1. I mean, there are exceptions, I know, like Monaco in Formula 1 has some very, very tight turns, but it is the exception. It's Monaco. Yeah, I just don't think it works really well. I played through the whole cup in 200cc, and I'm just not sold on it. I like the idea of the aesthetic, but at the same time, my God, the tulips look so flat. Like they're such basic models that they just look out of place.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on this one. Amsterdam Drift is unfortunately, I think, my least favorite of the 8 tracks we've got here. It's just when you see that intro sequence of like panning around and it's supposed to show all the goodies of this track. I mean, it just doesn't look very good. If you see the buildings are very, very low quality, and unfortunately, that's a theme in these city tracks. I'm not a fan that we're seeing like 3 city tracks of these 8, and I get that this is probably because, Mario Kart Tour will eventually shut down and then you won't be able to play all of these city courses that they've already made, so they're bringing them over to this. But there's just, like you say, too many sharp turns, and I feel in most of them, there's too many arrows. Like, I get that that's the gimmick of these tracks, but it's just look at the arrows and drive that way. I don't know. It just doesn't feel quite good.
Yeah, I think the problem is that it's so visually noisy. It doesn't feel like a racetrack. It feels like something else that somebody has tried to sort of force to behave in Mario Kart.
Credit where credit is due. I really like this section in like the canal because I've been in Amsterdam and there's a lot of these in the actual city, so it's really cool that you're actually driving in them. And although it's short, the Tulipan section, it does look good in motion, although, you know, if you stop and just look at them, they do look a bit, you know, flat, like you put it.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of the underwater bit, but I don't know whether it's just because I was playing on 200, but honestly, I thought I'd gone off the edge at first, and not in a kind of exciting, ooh, you know, sort of, oh no, you know, is this where I'm supposed to go? You know, I'm gonna have to take a chance. It was just like, bam, in the water, and it's like, oh, okay, it's an underwater section. Like, it didn't feel exciting like the train track in Calamari Desert. That doing, you know, sort of that sort of transition, that change was, you could see it from a distance. It's like, whoa, what's going on up there? And then, whoa!
Yeah.
It's a change. It was kind of, there was an anticipation and then a payoff, which I did not get with this. And to be honest, I don't get it with any of the city courses.
So I think the reason why these tracks do feel a bit off, you know, it was made for tour, and there you kind of drive, the game just guides you automatically. You don't really, it just drives, right?
Yeah.
So all these sharp corners, it doesn't really matter because the game is just guiding you through the entire course, but it doesn't quite work in Mario Kart 8, in my opinion, and obviously also yours.
Yeah, I think it's the sort of thing where we've had like city-themed courses in the past with things like, well, even things like Toad's Turnpike and all that sort of thing, but they always take liberties and make it more, it's a race course first and the theming afterwards, and trying to marry those two things. Whereas I feel with these, it's the theming first and a race course, like they try and put a race course in Amsterdam rather than creating a race course and making it Amsterdam themed, if that makes any sense. I'm sure that the latter is the process they're actually using, but it doesn't come across, at least for me.
And there is also good city tracks. One of the city tracks in this pack I actually quite like, and also Paris Promenade. I still quite like that track.
I like Paris Promenade, and guess what? It's because it's big and open, and it has lots of nice, wide, you know, sort of long turns, and there are some right angles, but they're on the riskier parts of the course.
Yes.
You know, it's sort of, you know, you have those right angles, but it's sort of like, whoa, it's a bit of, you know, you've gone down the shortcut route, but it's going to be tricky. Fine. Have hard turns there, absolutely, and, you know, have hairpins and all that sort of thing, but just sharp right angle turns on a narrow racetrack? No.
Okay, so before this chat turned way too negative, let's just go on to the next track. And second in the Fruit Cup, we have Riverside Park. And I actually think that this track looks really good.
Yeah, there's some nice lighting going on. I mean, I'm saying that within the context of the DLC packs, because I think overall, none of, with very few exceptions, you know, none of the DLC courses look as good as the standard courses. Like, there's a very different style between them, but this is a good one. This is still a good one.
I mean, you can clearly see the texture work is much better, like if you look at the grass or the mud or just like the track itself. And I just, like you said, the lighting is really nice, especially when you come out of that waterfall with the yellow, orangey bloom. It's not the longest track, but I actually don't mind it in this one. I think it's cute, it sets out what it's supposed to do, and it's a really nice recreation of an old track.
Yeah, and it's Kel Surprise. It's actually, you know, a race course. It's got lovely bends that are fun to go around and things like not blooming right angles.
But it's nice when they take these really flat courses from older games and then they add some, you know, height to them, some nice curves and some nice, it just feels much more alive, where, you know, we've seen tracks before where, like Mario Circuits 3 or something, I don't remember the exact name, but that is like very flat, very just a recreation of the original track, where this, kind of like Boo Lake, they also did this where they changed it up a bit, and it's really nice to see. The music is really solid in this one, and I love the sound effects. It really helps you immerse yourself into this kind of jungle forest theme. And yeah, overall, this is a happy inclusion in my book.
Yeah, more than happy with this one. It's a little short, as you say, but I don't think that's a bad thing. You have some shorter courses, you have some longer. I think it's a good.
Yeah, and it feels like a racetrack, so woohoo.
It does!
Next up, we have a track that I highly requested, and I'm super happy to see here. It's DK Summit. Yeah, this track, it's a very faithful recreation of the original. There are some changes, some good, some bad. I'll start with a little bad one that I think a lot of people kind of missed, but it's in the original when you race on DK Summit. It starts out like very gray and a bit foggy, and then as you progress through the 3 laps, it gets more and more sunny, where in this one, it's just sunny all the way through, which I think it's a bit of a shame, but they made the change in Tour, and so, you know, it came from Tour. A change I really do like, though, is the change from a Mario statue to a Donkey Kong statue, because it was kind of weird that it was Mario when it was called DK Summit, but there was no really indication that it was Donkey Kong. So this is just nice to see.
I just think it's a fun course. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the little like trick ramps from Wii, which I know those are very, very old, but I've never really understood and enjoyed the trick system in Wii. It always felt slower. It doesn't feel that way here. It's definitely snappier rather than spending, a good few seconds in the air and then coming back down and getting a boost, which felt wasteful. It's like, just go round the course. Whereas here, it sort of feels like, no, you do get a significant boost. But at the same time, I don't know whether I don't know.
Do you mean the half pipes?
Yeah, the blue strips where you go, bring.
Oh, that's the best part. I absolutely love these. It's just, I find so great enjoyment in going up, and I love that it doesn't restrict you from how far you can go. So if you go up one of these in like a turn, you just follow the turn around, and it looks really weird, but it's really fun. And a change they made was right at when the half pipes kind of start down at the end of the track. Normally, it was just like in the turn, the half pipe starts on the right-hand side and it just continues through. But this time, it's there and then it stops and then there's snow. So normally, what I think many would do is that we just go to this half pipe section and then we like go up and down just on the right-hand side. And it was really quick, but it also meant that we didn't really use the other half pipe section. But this means that now when I was racing, I was forced almost to use what the track was actually supposed to do. And although it was weird at first, I actually kind of like the change, because then now you do what the course, is intentionally telling you to do, where before you could easily just skip that part very, very quickly.
I can't say I have an opinion about that, because as I say, Wii's like the Mario Kart blind spot for me. I've played all the others to death, but Wii, I just didn't play it much.
And that's totally fair. There's many games that I haven't played, but Wii is one of, like Mario Kart Wii, I played so much. It was the first game I got for my Wii.
You're like the Wii guru.
And the half pipes, I'm just so happy to see more tracks implementing them, because last wave, it was the first time we actually saw this, this mechanic in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And I'm a big fan of it, and I know a lot of people are. Maybe it is not always the fastest way of going, but it is definitely the funnest. The most fun.
I wasn't going to correct you.
In the start, I also just want to mention one bad thing about this course, because otherwise, for me, it's perfect. It's the audience at the start. It's the flat 2D cutout at 5 frames per second, and they're really close, so it just looks really bad. And I get that they can look good like from a distance, but this is really close, and like it's when you start the game, you just see these jumping in 5 frames per second. And it was just my only complaint, and I wanted to bring it up just so I didn't seem like I was biased towards this course. It is an awesome course. I'm just so glad to see it. Yeah,
I mean, to be honest, it's that whole sort of the audience is a bit of a sticking point for me generally. Like again, I'm going back to the city tracks, I know, but you see these giant, like if you look at the Shy Guys and you look at the Yoshis that are in the audience, and the same with the Toads. I say the audience, but the bystanders right on the side. They are so close to the player, and they tower over them. Like, they are huge. Yeah. So much bigger. And I don't know why that has happened. I'm guessing maybe it's so that they look like they fit in with the world. But then why haven't you rescaled things properly so that the world is actually scaled with the races? Like that's the important thing. Don't make the Yoshis bigger.
I mean, the Yoshis are and Toads are quite big. Just in the original Mario Kart, it's always been like a thing where the bystanders are just huge. But
they're further away, so it's not as obvious. But these are right next to you, and it's like Yoshi as he's standing at the side, looking at you, jumping and cheering. It scares me.
Okay, let's move on to the next track. Okay, this track, Alex, this is by far the best track.
The worst track.
No, Alex! Oh, no!
No, I'm joking. It's the best. It's absolutely the best.
To me, this looks like a track that could just plop into Mario Kart 8, and I would not bat an eye. It just has so much love poured into this. Like, you have a different ending theme. You have, you know, the coins have little Yoshis on them. There's so many references that this just feels like a DLC track from the original Mario Kart 8. It's right in there with the Animal Crossing tracks, with the F-Zero tracks. It's just bloomin' wonderful.
Yeah, I love it to death. I mean, there are still some things where it's clear that it's being designed with Tor somewhat in mind, but they are minor. They are very minor, and if I wasn't looking at it so critically, you could convince me that it's from the original Mario Kart 8 DLC, not Deluxe DLC. So like,
yeah,
you know, all the, like, as you say, like Big Blue and stuff like that. It is glorious, and I can't hit that blooming question mark cloud.
No?
I just can't hit it. No, the CPU's got it for me, but
nice.
I just can't hit it. But it's great. It's open. It's got these lovely turnings. It's got so much love and care thrown into it. All the enemies, the sound effects when you take damage is different. It is just supremely good. It is, honestly, it's what I wish every track in these waves was like, because this really feels like the creme de la creme. Like, you look at this compared to like whatever that ice cream one was. What was it? It was like, oh, Sky High Sunday.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a brand new track, and it's like, it looks awful. Like, it's so heavily saturated. It's blocky, it's boring, and yet this is like a love letter to Yoshi's Island. And it's fun to race around. Like, I have absolutely no complaints about this, apart from maybe the fact that it doesn't quite match up completely with the aesthetic of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And that's fine. That's fine, because it's so different.
But isn't it because, like, it's trying to recreate that, you know, Yoshi's Island was very different in art style. I feel like it rather well, like, recreates that feeling, like the hills, the way the hills are shaped, and the colors and hues. It's just really nice.
Oh yeah, I'm more talking about the fact that things like the SNES tracks they still look like the SNES tracks, but they've been updated to have, you know, sort of look in keeping with the art style of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which this isn't really doing. You know, sort of like, again, detail is lower, but it gets away with it a lot more because it's playing off Yoshi's Island. So I'm more than happy with that. I'm not bothered by it, really. I think it's gorgeous.
This is what I mean when the consistency of this, like, wave is so weird. Because we have this, like, the best DLC track to me by far, and then we have other tracks like, you know, Amsterdam Drift, and it's just, did they just use all of the time on this track and then, oh, shoot, we also have to work on the other tracks, let's quickly scramble something together or something?
Yeah, it sticks out like a sore thumb, but I was about to say in the best way, but it's showing that these waves could have been more. Like, there's clearly so much untapped potential they could do. They could do something like a Stunt Race FX track. I mean, it's a hell of a throwback, but they did F-Zero. They can do Stunt Race. Why not?
And they even changed the banner at the start of Yoshi's Island. You have a little jingle at the start. Oh, woo!
Yeah, it's an absolute good. It really is.
Like, this is just the perfect example of how to do a DLC track. But this is not the only track we have to talk about. I think we've gushed about it enough. So let's go on to the next cup. So, the first track of the Boomerang Cup is Bangkok Rush. And it's another city track.
Yeah, and it's entirely forgettable, frankly. I don't think, I mean, from a layout point of view, I don't think it's as bad as Amsterdam, but
No.
it doesn't have anything going for it. Like, you see a lot of the sort of, what I presume are sort of like typical sort of shapes from the Bangkok skyline. I've not been there myself. But
Yeah.
you see those with, you know, the buildings in the backdrop and stuff like that. But they're so basic. They're so, like, I can see the polygon edges so clearly, and it's just dull to look at.
Yes.
It's just dull, but at the same time, like Amsterdam, it's visually noisy and hard to pass. Like, this isn't how you do things.
I mean, look at this picture I sent you. That building on the right. Oh, man.
It's flat.
Very
flat with some shading, you know, some lighting and that. And it's such a disappointment, you know, and I'm bored of these city tracks. I'm bored as city as a theme.
Yeah.
And more importantly, I think it's also, in a way, doing a disservice to these gorgeous cities, you know, that exist in real life.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of taking a snapshot, but it's not showing them in the best light. It almost feels like they're doing, you know, how can we make this look like Bangkok? Oh, we'll do this and that, and we'll put this building in the background. Done. And it's like, you could be doing so much more. There's so much more potential. You know, I've not been to Bangkok, but like, Paris, Paris Promenade admittedly is one of the better ones, but why are we not using the zero gravity mechanic to go up the Eiffel Tower? That's the easiest idea in the world.
So cool.
Why is that not a thing? Why are we not doing that in London, going up the Shard or something? Okay, it would be boring to do that in every city, but there's so much potential, and they're just not utilizing it, and it makes me so frustrated.
I just feel like a lot of these tracks blend together. And I don't know quite why. Maybe you have the answer to this, because
it's because you're driving around and it's visually noisy in the same way that you might conflate. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head, but you know, maybe two tracks within the original Mario Kart Deluxe, like the original layout. I'm looking at the courses right now and I can't think of any. But that's the thing. I can't conflate any of these except for maybe something like Moo Moo Meadows and... Yeah, I'm really struggling to conflate two things, but when it comes to these city courses, they all look the same because it's just buildings, visual noise, you know, blocky polygons in the shape of places where people live and work.
yeah.
And yet you will get some distinction in different styles, like obviously Paris Promenade has the Eiffel Tower, you know, and all that sort of thing, and the Arc de Triomphe, but... Even so, it's all jammed in this very claustrophobic, very busy setting because it's a city, but as a result, nothing, or very little at the very least, stands out.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, and it's also a lot of the music feels very similar. It's not very rememberable. Like, I can't distinguish a lot of the city tracks, and also you drive on the same, like, like a regular road, because that's what you have in these cities, but they just blend together, and
they feel lifeless.
Yeah, if I have to, like, I just want to there is some aspects that I do like. In the start, you drive through this sort of canal again, but the water's not very high, and you have these boats that you can do trick off. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You also have, like, where you're driving through markets, but that's like the good things I can say.
It just feels like a watered down Shy Guys Bazaar in that part, doesn't it?
Yes, very true. And yeah, I think I don't really have anything else to say about this track.
No, I'm done. I feel like I've been very negative towards it, but
hey,
it's
if
more
that's
of an
how
overall...
you feel, that's totally fine, Alex. You know, when we like things, we can be positive. When we don't like things, it's okay to, you know, your arguments are very valid. It's not like you're saying it's bad. Like you're describing why it's bad, and that's like, very props to you.
Thank you. And it is more of a sort of a general frustration with these city courses, but
yes,
I feel that this really compounds it. Like, it's I'd forgotten about the water thing, and yeah, the water thing's pretty cool, but I think you go through it. Is it once or twice? and it's like, and it's over. And also, it doesn't change anything. Like, if it made your kart really slippery or slidey or something because, hey, you're on a little bit of water, maybe. But no, they're playing games with us.
So next in line, we have a DS track. It's Mario Circuit. And I know that this may be a bit boring track, a bit, basic. It's another Mario Circuit. But, I grew up with Mario Kart DS. So to me, like seeing this and hearing the music, that's exactly like when N64 tracks comes in for you, Alex. And you feel like, oh, this is like so nostalgic. That's when I see this track. And it just feels really nice. It is a bit short, but I really like it. I know that not everyone will like this. I just wanted to get that out there.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
I got really confused when I played this because I was mixing up Figure 8 Circuit with this. So when I first started playing it, I was like, this is unrecognizable as what I thought was Mario Circuit. But, the first track in Mario Kart DS is not Mario Circuit. I double-checked by loading up my old copy and feeling a bit embarrassed afterwards. I don't mind this track. I find it inoffensive. It's certainly better than something like Toad Circuit. Like, that is a snooze fest. But this, it's okay. It's fine. I like the fact that they changed after you go through the warp pipe tunnel.
Yeah.
You come out and it's like this sort of, like, low light forest and stuff. I was about to say spooky. It's not really spooky, but it's sort of a shady forest, and you can hear like all these sort of environmental sounds. Yeah, that's nice, because it wasn't like that in the original. Trust me, I checked.
That's a super cool change that adds a bit of variety, and like the way that the light shines through the trees is really, really neat. I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, the trees are using that sort of chunky aesthetic rather than what we had in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe originally, but even so, within the sort of the view of these new waves, this is definitely a nice track. It's nice, it's simple, but it does have its own kind of style, and that little bit with the trees really makes it stand out. It's just a little thing. It's sort of, you go through and then all of a sudden, it's a different environment. And then you got the sort of sandy bit at the end. That's marginally interesting before Peach's Castle. But, it's there, you see. It's got a bit of personality, a bit of something that makes it stand out. It's nice.
And next up in line, in the Boomerang Cup, we have the third track, Waluigi Stadium.
Yeah, I think this track's all right. I like the idea. It sounds silly, but I think this one stands out for being almost too detailed compared to the other tracks. Like, the mud is like super like shiny and contrasty, and you don't get that even in like the Mario Kart 8 tracks. Like, we've got Wario Stadium. Yeah. You don't even get that in that, and I'm not opposed to it being, different in style to a degree, but it does feel, I suppose, it's lit as though it's night and everything, but yeah, I don't know. It sort of feels like they heard that people are like, oh, everything looks too basic and blocky and there's not enough detail. And they went, just turn the slider up to maximum.
I quite like, it really gives you that feeling of a rally race, going around in this stadium. And it's just so much more pretty than I remembered. Like, I played it on Wii, but I know it was in Double Dash. And it's really nice to have some Double Dash representation, because this is the first Double Dash track in these waves.
I believe it is, yeah, because we had, in the original DLC for Mario Kart 8, we had a Baby Park, everyone's favorite. We had Baby Park, but yeah, no, I'm just looking through now, and I think you're absolutely right. This is the first Double Dash track in these new waves.
Yeah, and the textures are a bit hit or miss, if you ask different people, but I think they are a hit. I really like how they look, and I really like your theory that they just exaggerated it after hearing the feedback. The music, again, wonderful.
Classic.
Really classic, and we have the half pipes, which I'm just a really big fan of. They're super fun, and you need to use them to get to the new section, which the first many times I raced through this track, I didn't know how to get to the section. I was like, how do I get up there? But then I found out that you have to jump off, the half pipe in the correct side, and then you can get up there. It's a bit hard to pull off in 200cc, but if you're good, I guess it's no problem.
Well, let's just say I managed it no problem.
Well, you're just very good, Alex. Also, just really cool to see some anti-grav. We don't see a lot of those in these waves, but those sections that you have to use the half pipe to get to, those are anti-grav. So, yeah, just really nice to see. And I don't know what else to say about this track. It's really nice. It feels different than, Wario Stadium, even though it's one of the brothers. They're not brothers. It's very similar in a sense, but it still feels very different, and that's just very nice.
Yeah, it feels like it's going for the same aesthetic, obviously, but at the same time, it feels distinct. It doesn't feel like the same track.
Yeah.
It almost, I suppose in a way you could say it feels a bit like, maybe like a remix of it, but I don't know. I think it's fine. I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think maybe the nostalgia's playing a bit here, because I really did like this track in Mario Kart Wii, and just hearing the tunes and seeing the fake piranhas coming out and trying to stop.
I love those.
Yeah,
it's a nice touch. It's
really,
like it is an actual event location rather than just, hey, there are piranha plants here. It's like, no, they've constructed this entire thing. I don't know. It's just fun, and I'm glad they stuck with that rather than replacing them with real piranha plants or something, which I wasn't expecting them to do, but I'm just pleased they didn't.
And lastly, we have the third city track. It's Singapore Speedway. So I will start off with saying that this is probably my favorite city track of the three. We still have a lot of the issues present here, but I feel that this track is much more rememberable. It's much better at having different sections actually feeling different. I just had much more fun racing on this than the other two. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I agree. It felt much more like a racetrack, and visually still a bit just noisy overall, but it definitely has more of a distinct style compared to the others. The fact that it's at night and, well, maybe not night, but like dusk or dawn, that helps, and I think it's just because it's going for what feels like to be sort of a wider scope rather than this sort of claustrophobic tight streets. It just helps it feel a little bit more, just more like a racetrack, more like something you might actually race around, and there's various different paths and stuff. And I agree, I think this is definitely the best city track of the three. And frankly, I think maybe it might be my second favorite city track. I still think Paris Promenade is my favorite, but I don't know. I haven't played this one as much as I've played Paris Promenade. Maybe my opinion will change. Although, I do have one problem. And that's, you have this upper section where you go up on one side and it's like, hey, there's you can glide up and go on this higher section. It's like, this is pretty cool. And then all of a sudden, it just ends. And there's an arrow pointing right. And it's just saying, go this way. And what? Boom. It's a flat wall. And it's like, no! Have me coast off and, sort of, I've got to, sort of get myself back onto the track if, that's my punishment, I've got to try and get back on. But no, it's just like, bang, wall. There's very few instances in a lot of these city tracks where you can actually fall off the edge. They just instead stick an invisible wall in, and it's like, no, it's just a corridor. And there are instances where you can fall off, I know, but compared to a normal Mario Kart track, they're definitely reduced. But having said that, I still enjoyed this track. Definitely the best of the three.
And I think, a big part for me is that we don't have as many, right sharp turns.
Right angle turns!
Exactly. And it's just, like you say, it feels much more like a race course, and I really enjoy the sections. You have this long section where you're driving on these arrows. You have the green arrows, which give you a lot of momentum, and then you have the red arrows, and that just feels really nice.
And they're on a nice, big, wide, sort of sprawling turn, so it feels like a racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, the feeling you get when you're on those arrows, I want the next Mario Kart to just feel like that every time. Maybe that's just 200cc. That's 300cc.
That 300.
Oh my god. And then we have this kind of flower at the end. It's just, I like it. We have the same issues that a lot of the models of the buildings are very low quality, but because the track is actually fun to drive around, it doesn't really matter as much. It's when the track is not fun, you start, oh, like, what is there then? But when the track is fun, you can kind of forgive a bit more how it looks. But
yeah. And also the buildings are further away a lot of the time, so they're not as up. They're not up in your face, like they are on other city courses. So the fact that they're basic looking is not as big a deal. It's not as obvious.
But yeah, there you have it. All new 8 Wave 4 tracks. What do you think, like, overall? What's your, like, if you have to rate it out of 10?
Honestly, probably... again, I feel like the city tracks really, really drag it down.
Yeah.
Which seems a bit unfair, but Yoshi's Island is so flippin' good.
Yeah.
Like... it's really tough. I would say, honestly, maybe like a... I'm torn between a 6 and a 7. If I think about Yoshi's Island, it's a 7. If I think about Bangkok, Rush, and Amsterdam, it's a 6. So, somewhere around there.
For me, it's like we have 2 tracks that I don't like, but the rest I really like. Like, Yoshi's Island is by far the standout, but DK Summit is a track I really requested. I'm glad to see that. Mario Circuit, Waluigi Stadium, Riverside Park, like, all these tracks are really good inclusions, so I would take a 7 because, those are really nice. But anyway, those were our thoughts about the new DLC Wave. We have 2 to go, and I'm excited to see what they include in the end. But let us know down in the comments below what you thought of these tracks, because I'm sure that, you know, we have a lot of different opinions about these tracks, and I would love to read those. And if you like this video, well, why don't you have a bit of an inconsistent energy, but still, you know, manage to click that subscribe button. That would be very lovely. And stay safe, play some Mario Kart, and I'll see you in the next one. Felix from Nintendo Life, out.
Alex from the City Tracks, annoyed.